Hey, what's up, everybody? Yellow Turtle here with my co-host Beef. Welcome to another episode of the LUKSOfam podcast, brought to you by KEEZ. The LUKSOfam podcast is meant to be a short and informational show where we provide some takes on the latest LUKSO news in the space. Today, we'll be talking about the BuildUP #2 Hackathon, which started this week, the launching of Universal Profiles on November 8th, and Fabian, the founder of LUKSO, participating in the Binance Conference in November. But before we get into all that, first, let's hear a word from our sponsors over at LEEQUID.
LEEQUID is a liquid staking solution purposely built for the LUKSO blockchain. Users can stake LYX tokens and, in return, earn receipt SLYX tokens redeemable one-to-one for the deposited LYX. LEEQUID notably offers flexibility, allowing users to opt in or out of staking at any moment via the protocol's liquidity pool. This feature removes the potentially extensive wait times typically associated with traditional staking methods. With the support of advisors and multi-signatories from the LUKSO team, LEEQUID is steadfast in its commitment to achieving decentralization from the beginning, underlining transparency and trust. Following a thorough audit by consensus, LEEQUID is set to launch in October, integrating suggestions to ensure a seamless and secure user experience. Don't forget to follow LEEQUID on Twitter to stay updated on opportunities for earning passive rewards and contributing to the security of the LUKSO blockchain.
Pretty good. Just had some waffles for breakfast. Can't complain. We did, however, get our first snowfall, so that kind of sucks.
Already?
Yeah. I gotta run my lawnmower until it's out of gas. I'm kind of behind the ball there. What's up with you?
Not much. It was Halloween yesterday. I was passing out some candy. It's getting cold here. It got in the 30s the last couple of days, but no snow yet, thank God.
Yeah. No, we're in a deep freeze over here. So you want to hop in?
Let's do it.
So BuildUP #2 Hackathon just kicked off, actually. So the LUKSO team is putting out a bunch of different categories and things that builders can focus on. Were there any workshops that you saw on the release schedule that really got you excited?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely quite a bit of workshops that they're putting on. So just to backtrack a little bit, this is the BuildUP #2 following BuildUP #1, which was last summer. But it's actually the third hackathon that LUKSO has put on. So it makes sense, right? Because living in the coding world, everything starts at zero, right? So this is the third hackathon. And yeah, they're putting on a lot of workshops. They had workshops in the first one as well that were super helpful. It's just a great way to introduce developers to the LUKSO standards, introduce them to the universal profile, and get them to start to understand the importance of the LSP standards and what you can really build with them. So some of the workshops that have already happened include creating a universal profile programmatically and then reading profile data, which was yesterday. And then today they had a Web3 auth seminar about using CWE for universal profile login. So CWE stands for sign in with Ethereum. It's the standard in the Web3 space for login on Ethereum or any EVM really. And then moving on to the next couple of days, they're going to be going over adding functionalities to universal profiles with the LSP17 contract extension, which I think that one will be very, very interesting. They'll also be talking about adding reactivity to the LSP1 universal receiver. I think that is a really cool use case, and we'll start to see more and more modifications to universal profiles moving forward in the future. And also another big one is introduction to transaction relay service. So this is a huge one in the space. That's something we've been talking about for the last 2 years, probably ever since the inception of the idea. Essentially, a transaction relay service is a way for yourself or companies or projects to pay for your gas fees, right? So if you've ever used a MetaMask or ever transacted on an EVM chain, you know that you have to pay some sort of network fee for the transaction to go through. That is the case on LUKSO, right? It is still a blockchain. There are still transaction fees, but you can actually hide those fees behind a relayer service. So think about it the same way that you go to a department store and buy something with your credit card. You don't have to pay the credit card fee. That's all happening in the background, and the company is covering that fee for you. It just helps with overall user experience. It makes the user feel better when they're checking out, knowing that there isn't another $15 to $20 transaction fee added on to what you're already paying for at the very end. So that's something that I think will be huge. It'll attract a lot of people. It'll attract a lot of crypto natives who are kind of sick of this way of going about it and paying for gas fees. And then it'll also help onboard the regular person, right? Because you're not discouraging them or, like distracting them from the fact that they have to pay the gas fees, right? So we'll be able to cover that. And that's pretty much the main workshops that they have. They also have a Q&A, tips from previous winners, and then they'll also be holding various office hours to meet with some of the developers on the smart contract team to ask and answer questions. So overall, they're really going above and beyond to help the developer community. And they really want to see some interesting and useful projects come out of this hackathon, and then hopefully that carried on even further so that people can keep developing these projects.
Yeah, this is pretty awesome. Just kind of calling back to the previous build up where they did that live stream. A lot of people tuned in, and it sparked a lot of curiosity. So it's good with these new standards that they're offering so much support in these workshops and these videos that people can reference. Because I know we are starting to get a little bit more hot on the scene. People keep asking, what's LUKSO? How does this work? Where can I find out more about this? Just today, somebody was asking about CWE in universal profiles. So I just tagged them into the video that was just released. So it's really good that the LUKSO team is recognizing that this support will be beneficial. It's definitely fostering the growth, and I'm really excited to see what comes out of this hackathon.
Yeah, me too. And talking about the Seaweed quickly again, we talked about it in the last episode with the Third Web integration. Essentially, what Third Web does is it takes that Seaweed login, which is usually around like 80 lines of code, and condenses that into about 7 lines of code using their SDK. So, that's something that I think developers will find very useful moving forward as well. And you can create your D app right now using Third Web and just implement MetaMask sign in or something like that. And then once the universal profiles go live on Third Web, it's just a click of a button to switch over to universal profiles.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to rewatch that video, the Seaweed video, and just kind of see how much of it I understand. But I am really excited to learn more about the LSP1 and kind of see what the team says when they do that presentation. Because if you remember, the universal receiver, I think, is the thing that will notify you if you receive something, or it can also like have a set of rules on it. So if you receive certain assets, they'll go certain places, or like when you receive LYX, LIX, it'll automatically divide the amount that you get into two and send it to two separate places. Like I know those are things that could be built on top of Universal Receiver, LSP1, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right?
Yeah, no, you're totally correct about that. SP1 at its most primitive standard right now just notifies the universal profile when an asset is entering the universal profile. But custom logic could be integrated to it to, essentially do whatever you want, right? Either reject assets, scam assets from a list of, token addresses that are known to be scams. You could have it sent to specific vaults. You could have it sent to staking contracts. You could have it even just uploaded straight to a marketplace. There's infinite possibilities, right? And that is like really speaks volumes to what the LUKSO team has built, right? They have built the most primitive features and standards so that they can be adapted and evolved forever till it stands the test of time, that you'll be able to constantly update this universal profile and you won't be stuck. There won't be a universal profile 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. It is just the universal profile. And you'll be able to write new smart contracts, whatever use cases and functionalities we discover later down the line, you'll be able to add those functionalities to your universal profile, which is really like the greatest use case that anyone could ever build in this space, I believe.
I agree. This is like really monumental. I'm very excited for November 8th. That is the
Woo!
official Universal Profile launch date. We finally got the date. So I don't know about you, but I've got a big clock on my wall counting down. And I'm not telling my wife what it is, so she's a little scared.
That's funny. Yeah, November 8th. I'm very, very excited for that day.
So, kind of talking about universal profiles, what are they? In case somebody's just tuning in now, and like, how's that going to enhance our user experience on Luxo?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's definitely a loaded question for sure, but the universal profile is a modular smart contract architecture employed within the Luxo ecosystem. So it's based on a combination of multiple standards and smart contracts, which deliver extensible functionality, allowing logic updates without altering the main smart contract code. So, like we were just talking about, the ability to add smart contracts to your universal profile to change its functionality later down the line. Specifically, the universal profile is an owned smart contract, meaning it has a designated owner. It utilizes generic key value store for storage, enabling the attachment of any piece of information to your profile by associating that information to specific values within the smart contract. So you could store any type of data, any type of metadata in your smart contract and just reference that off-chain data with something that's on-chain. So you'd be able to store really anything, right? Like the main use case, or a use case that tickles my fancy because I'm a 3D designer, I have a background in engineering, is the ability to store 3D assets off chain, but have the on chain reference so that you can like display what you're creating and display what you own. And it doesn't matter if it's a super complex object that takes up a lot of storage space, it can still be referenced on chain and thus proving ownership and things like that. So when you deploy a universal profile, there's several components that are involved, including the LSP0 or the ERC725 account, which is kind of like the first and main standard that Fabian developed or thought of post his ERC 20 days. So the components that are involved in the universal profile are LSP0, LSP6, the key manager, LSP1, the universal receiver, which we just talked about. And these components are all handled through the LSP factory, which facilitates the deployment and configuration of a universal profile. So, that's kind of the long-winded answer. The short-winded answer is that it's a modular smart contract account that's updatable and upgradable and will stand the test of time. If you need any more information or insight on, what a universal profile is, I highly recommend checking out the LUKSO documentation at docs.luxo.tech.
Beautifully said. You're getting a round of applause over here. No, I completely agree with everything you said. Super excited to finally see it, like the working product, mainnet, so that we can start seeing some of these projects utilizing them. So yeah, very excited.
Absolutely.
One more question, I guess, not to put you on the spot or anything, but I know members of our community are talking about this. Not sure if you saw the latest Elon Musk, Joe Rogan interview, but Musk was kind of burning NFTs currently with the way that all of the images are stored offline, pretty much off chain. So it's just referencing like the website where you can pull the image from. Are we going to see that change on Luxo?
Yeah, it still works in a similar way. Like you wouldn't want to store large pieces of data on chain because it kind of clogs up the chain. Instead of referencing an image based off of the back end of, say, something like OpenSea, you get to control and store and own your own data. Everything that's attached to my universal profile is referenced through the smart contract that is my universal profile. And what you can do is you can store any of that information wherever you want. Like Fabian has said multiple times that you could theoretically and technically store all of your universal profile data that's being referenced on chain, like all of your off chain data, in a Google Drive. You could store it wherever you want, right? But the important thing is that you control that data. And so that when you bring your universal profile to a platform or to a D app, you bring that data with you, right? So like the problem right now with an EOA is that, I sign in to OpenSea with my MetaMask, right? And I have an NFT in it. They are referencing the smart contract on their backend and then pulling up that information on their backend, right? If you were to just look at my EOA, you could only see the smart contracts that I've interacted with. You can't see any of that data. But with a universal profile, you'd be able to see that smart contract, and then I would be able to pull and reference that data from my own air quotes around backend, right? So I'm storing the data where I want, and I can access it when I want, and I can choose who can access what data and when using multiple controllers. So the thing that we talked about yesterday, and actually the Twitter space with Ethelorian and Alts, which will be Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, we talked about, say I go to a fashion brand, a fashion D app, and I store my universal profile, my shoe size, my shirt size, my pant size, etc. Right? And then I go to a DeFi protocol. I am not going to give them access to that data. They don't need to know what shoe size, what pant size, what shirt size I am. They might need to know the balance of my LYX in this specific vault that I'm using to interact with this D app. And that's the only information I'll give them to have access to, right? So they won't have access to my other data. They won't be able to exploit the data that I'm not expressively giving them, right? And I'm not consenting to. So that's the real important thing about it, is that the users will be able to take control of their own data for the first time ever. We have never been able to control what happens with our data and what they have access to, right?
Yeah, that's true. It'll be interesting to see kind of how that goes. Like, do people choose to use Google Drives, or do they search for like a more decentralized method? Like, I'm not 100% about this, but I think Ocean Protocol is some sort of decentralized storage service. And I know that the Ocean Protocol founder's familiar with Luxo, and I think he's spoken about it in some videos as well. So I'm wondering if there will be like a partnership there in the future, or like, some sort of service that you can deploy through Ocean.
Oh yeah, I mean, Google Drive is just an example of what you can do. I don't think that it's inherently less safe than other options. So yeah, don't take that advice as gospel. But yeah, you could store it on Ocean Protocol. You could store it on, I think, something like IPFS. I don't know. This is a little bit above my pay grade, so I'm not going to act like I know what I'm talking about right now.
Hey, no, you did really well answering that question. So thank you for answering that for the community.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we got some other exciting news. Fabian took to Twitter to announce that he's going to be speaking at the Binance Conference, bridging Luxo with global crypto dialogues. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so he'll be missing out on Dev Connect in Istanbul, which I know there are some people pretty not upset, but they wanted to see Fabian there. But he will be at the Binance conference, and the little speculation nation, as Ethelorian and alts like to call it, they talked about this in the last wrap up, which happened this past Friday. You can find it on the Pink Pill Productions YouTube. But Fabian put out a tweet where he was announcing that he's going to be at the Binance conference and put a little winky face, implying that it might be a little bit something more there. And at the same time, Universal Profiles are set to launch November 8th while Fabian is at the Binance conference. So there are some, strings to be drawn there, some connections to be made. Nothing official yet, but we definitely got our hopes up that there might be a little bit more there than just him speaking at Binance, and maybe he'll be pink pilling the entire conference on what a universal profile is and the importance of it. And then who knows, man? Not financial advice. This is speculation. Maybe we get a listing on Binance soon.
Speculation Nation.
I like
No,
how Ethan also have coined that term.
yeah, no, I'm a big fan of that. So, yeah, I agree. I think that this is the perfect opportunity to start some of the tidal wave, the pink wave of Luxo. Like, if he laid all that out in one, like one talk, that would be quite significant. Um, so yeah, let's see what happens. I've got my bags packed already, so regardless if it happens or if it doesn't, eventually we'll get an exchange. We
Oh yeah.
did get something called, I think, Simple Swap that came out today. So that is interesting. I haven't
I
looked
didn't
too.
hear that yet.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it too much. I've never heard of it, but Fabian retweeted it. It seems to just be some sort of DEX that's moved on to mainnet. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, and then to anyone out there listening, always be careful, right? Always do your research, always do your due diligence. Don't just rush into a new platform because there's obviously inherent dangers there. If you're going to move any assets, move little by little, dollar cost average. Just be careful out there, guys.
Yeah, especially with, the launch of a new chain in general. Like there will be a lot on chain initially. I'm sure like people will be in a rush almost to deploy stuff just so that they could say they were there early. So,
Right.
make sure that you're doing your research on the teams that are releasing these. And then, use amounts on chain that you're comfortable with to test the product.
For sure. All right. Do you want to wrap it up there, Beef?
No, we got to talk about one more thing.
Oh
The District
no.
VR just dropped that banger of a video where Dennis kind of spoke on the progress of the District VR and gave us all of those like juicy like clips that honestly I'm just super excited about. Did you see it?
Oh yeah, the video is amazing. The actual like VR engine that they've built for like in the club scene, the DJ set, the board, the mixers looks so realistic. Then the outside experience of walking through Berlin and finding different venues and things like that for different concerts and events, like it's really really amazing, and it's coming together very nicely and very quickly.
Yeah, and kind of like recalling our past interview with Dennis, I thought that they had mentioned like they weren't sure when the timeline was for multiplayer, but that video, they said that it was multiplayer. So are we going to get that right away? I don't know, but it sounded like it because, yeah, it was like, and if you want to be in the crowd, you can be in the crowd. So I'm super pumped. I can't wait to see how this all. I know I'm going to catch Leadfoot and Dennis just killing it on stage as soon as I can.
Oh yeah, I mean, Leadfoot has done a few DJ sets already in the District VR, and they're amazing. I loved them. The music was great, and it's just insane to me that he is literally just using a VR headset. He's just got the two regular controllers in his hands and nothing else, right? He doesn't need a mixer. He doesn't need a $5,000 DJ table. He doesn't have a playlist going. He is just using the music engine that they have built natively in the District VR.
Yeah.
Simply amazing.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this to start gaining adoption. Once, more and more artists get to use this, word will spread. This is a great idea. It looks amazing. So I'm very excited. Congratulations to the District VR team. This looks great.
Yep. Congratulations, guys.
All right, you want to wrap it up?
Let's do it.
All right, remember, as always, none of this is financial advice, just a couple of dudes talking about what we love.
Peace out.